So hello and welcome to today's class. Today we will do a proper yoga style class, and it will be based with the foundational play of some Chinese medicine meridians. So we will first start with the liver meridian, which will help with the smooth flow of qi through the body. That's sort of one of the main responsibilities of the liver meridian, is to make sure the energy of our body is moving smoothly. As we know, energy is impacted through a myriad of things, from trauma to emotions to mental fluctuations to thought patterns to anything. So I find with what's happening in the world, having a smooth flow of qi moving through the body is something that we can sort of always work on. Once we create a bit of smooth flow through working through the sides of the body, we'll move into the depths of the kidney meridian, which is the bottoms of our feet, up the inner lines of our legs, through the uterus and the reproductive organs to the kidneys, and then up through the central channel. This time of year, which we're verging from autumn into winter, and if you're in the southern sphere, it's okay. You're not going to wreck your body by doing this practice during the summer. It will offer depth at any time of the season, but it pairs well with winter because we move into the water element, which is the deepest energetic and spiritual experience of all of the meridians, is when we bathe in the undertones of the water. So we'll invite the body to first move the energy through coaxing the liver, and then we'll shift it into the kidney meridian through some forward folds, which help to nourish the kidneys. And then we'll move it into some back bends, which help to stimulate and tonify the kidneys. So inviting the depth to sort of wake up. And then we'll move it from uterus to the heart and into quite deep channel called the Bao Mai, which again is the uterus to heart connection. And it's quite deep, but as the heart opens, it feeds into the nourishment of the uterus. And as the uterus becomes healthy, the heart can stay open. So there's this beautiful channel that sort of work together to support and nourish one another and lubricate one another. So that's what we'll be playing with a bit this practice. You can come to lay on your back to start. As always, I recommend, if you're in somewhere where the floor is a little bit cold or the space is a little bit cold, it's always nice to have something warm underneath your back while you're laying down, so that you're not bringing any cold into the body or the bones through the practice. We want to keep our bodies warm. So as you can see, I like to have a wool mat that's just always sitting on my mat, and also some blankets available just in case. So once you come to lay on your back, just take a moment to offer yourself coming into the moment. So you might extend your legs out straight, you might keep your knees bent, you may even hug your knees into your chest and offer your body some movement, depending on what time of day it is that you're entering this class. You may take a few sighs or deep breaths. Allowing yourself to arrive to this present moment the best you can. And once you feel like you're a little bit more here, allow your feet to come in towards your sit bones, so the knees bent and the feet on the ground. And then have your feet heel toe themselves a little bit wider than hip distance apart, and allow your knees to fall in for a moment, and your hands can come onto your uterus if you have one, or to the space beneath your navel if you do not have one. And let the bottom of your rib cage relax towards the ground. And the base of your skull to lengthen ever so slightly towards the top of your mat. And if your hands are feeling really cold, you can rub them together and then place them on you so that it doesn't feel like cold hands on your warm womb, but rather it feels warm hands on your warm womb. And give your body a quick scan, noticing where your attention is. If there's any places that could be open to softening and widening and releasing into the present moment. If you find your forehead is a bit, we'll use the word stimulated, or there's quite a lot of contraction or energy in your forehead, imagine your brain, the forehead aspect, and then the base of your brain were like an hourglass, and all of the sand was in the frontal lobe, and just slowly allow the sand or the energy of your brain to drift and settle into the base of your brain instead. And again, inviting you to witness that through a peripheral vision instead of a focal vision. So allowing the outer corners of your eyes to soften as you watch the sand pour from your frontal lobe to the base of your skull. Good. Well, allow your knees to come apart and lower your knees to the right. If this bothers your left knee, you could place a block or roll up a blanket and place it underneath your knee. If you're quite open through the front line of your left hip, you can walk your left foot out a little bit wider, or arguably, if you feel ready, you could take it into a half hero where you bring the left foot to the outside edge of your left hip and come onto the top of your foot. If you go there and that's just way too much to start and your nervous system has to go into activation, that's not really what we're looking for. Instead, come back to where you were and just allow your body the best you can to soften into it. Then let your arms come overhead, extending out, and you still soften the bottom of your rib cage towards the ground. And let the bones of your legs settle in a little bit, and the tissues that are involved for you in this posture to settle. And once you feel like you've settled in, and there's no more static as the body tries to reorient itself in space, you can start to walk your upper body over to the right so that you're in a bit of lateral flexion in the upper body. Opening the whole left side, through the left inner groin, down the left thigh, the inside of the left shin. Notice if your vision goes focal. So get it, focal means like one pointed awareness. And see if it's possible for you to stay in a more peripheral vision, which means a wider focus. So as if you were trying to look out the outer corners of your eyes to see the walls beside you or the space beside you. So try to stay in that vision as much as possible throughout practice. And where you are experiencing any sensations, allow your breath to slide along the sensations. Inviting your mind to be present, your emotional body to be present, your spiritual body to be present, and even your physical body to be present. Your breath naturally drops into a steady rhythmic pace. The more and more here you become. And then slowly start to bring your torso back to center. You can kind of, as if you heel toe your feet, sort of spinal crawl your spine back to a neutral position. And then think about drawing your femur bones or your thigh bones into your pelvis as you bring your knees back to center. And press into your feet and resettle your pelvis. And you can even elongate your low back by pulling your feet towards your shoulders so that your pelvis lengthens towards your feet. And take a moment in center to recalibrate. Allow yourself a nice, soft, full breath in, followed by a really slow breath out. And then a full breath in. And on your exhale, lower your knees over to your left. And you may notice right away that it might feel different on both sides. So if you need to place a block or a blanket underneath your right knee so that there's no sensation coming from the knee joint itself, please do. If you're quite comfortable and open through your right front side body, you can come into half hero pose on the right side. If you go there and it's too much, just come right back to where you were. And once the static sensation of changing position is resolved in your body and your bones and the tissues that are attached to the bones have found their place and feel settled, then start to spinal crawl yourself into a lateral flexion on the opposite side. So the torso walks over to the left. And your arms come overhead. They can be straight out or grabbing a hold of your own wrists, whatever feels the most natural. Notice if your vision went focal or single pointed, and invite this nice wide peripheral vision to witness your whole self in. So we don't become fixated on anything. Instead, we notice how the energy is moving through the entirety of our body or where it might potentially be stuck. And where it's stuck, if you have any spots, you can offer your breath as your breath moves the chi through your body. It's not a forceful offering of our breath to move something. Rather, it's an invitation of your breath to move to the space that might feel unmoving as a potential offering for movement to occur. But it's never a forcing of something. And in the first couple postures, as we invite coherence into the body or a deeper level of presence and here-ness, you can do as many scans of your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical body as you need to check where are the parts of me that are trying to escape being in my body. And can I very lovingly and curiously invite those parts of myself to actually come and inhabit all of the tissues and energy and mental spaces of my body in order to be so present that I'm here to witness the sensations that I'm feeling and navigating my breath and my awareness through those sensations via my presence to them. Then ever so gently, heel toe or a spinal crawl your torso back to a neutral position. And take a moment once you're in a neutral position to allow your nervous system to recalibrate to neutral in the spine. Then pull your femur bones in towards your hip socket and then bring your knees back to center. And heel toe your feet back hip distance apart. Reset your pelvis so that your spine feels nice and long and neutral. And extend your legs out straight and heel toe them a little bit wider. And then take your right foot even a little bit wider than your left. Then take your left leg all the way over to the right, keeping it straight, and cross your left ankle over top of your right ankle. So both legs remain straight, just the top ankle is crossing, or the left ankle is crossing over the right ankle. And then once the lower body has calibrated to this shape, spinal crawl yourself again into a lateral flexion on the other side. So walking your spine over to the right so that you're in the shape of a banana. This might be a small crawl over. It might be quite a large crawl over. It doesn't matter either way. But once you get there, allowing your bones, so the structure of the posture, to take its form and to relax and become dense and supported by the gravity. And once the bones feel like they've taken their shape, allow the tendons and connective tissues and muscles to also be supported by the ground that's holding them. So softening and releasing where possible. And keeping the bottom of your left rib cage relaxed towards the ground. Check in the vision of your awareness. Is it focal or peripheral? And invite your vision, your inner vision, to become wide so that it can see your entirety, not just one spot of you where there might be a potential stronger sensation. And the breath is the anchor, inviting it to be steady and consistent while the energy body shifts and changes as we spend time here. And then ever so lovingly start to spinal crawl your spine back to neutral. Once you're in neutral, take a recalibration moment. And then lift your left leg and draw it over to the left. If you need to reset your pelvis, go for it. Then let your left leg walk just a little bit further, and your right leg will stay straight, and your right ankle comes to cross over top of your left ankle. Once your legs are set and the static settles, then come into lateral flexion in the opposite direction. So spinal walk yourself over to the left into the shape of a banana. And with a peripheral vision, just witness all the sensations that arise in your body when you take this shape. And holding your peripheral vision and your consistent, steady breath as your bones relax into the form. And then all of the tendons, muscles, and connective tissue that is a part of your system, which there is a lot. Allow it to fall into its shape. And the last layer is to allow your skin to release into this form as well. All the while, your vision is seeing yourself as whole. And when you arrive at your next inhale, begin to spinal crawl your torso back to center. Once in center, take a moment to recalibrate. And then bring your right leg up and over, coming back through center. Walk your feet one at a time back in towards your hips with your knees bent. Extend your arms wide in line with your shoulders with the palms facing down. And you'll press a little bit into your palms, which will help to stimulate the engagement of your core. And heel toe feet together, knees together. And then to lift your feet off the ground, instead of just lifting them up, first pull your heels towards the backs of your knees so that you're on the tips of your toes. And if you didn't already feel your core engage from doing just that little bit, place your heels back down, feel your core release. And then again, bring the heels towards the backs of your knees, coming to the tips of your toes. And notice how just that beginning of a lift starts to engage the core. So think about your rib, the bottom of your rib cage rather, staying down and towards your pelvis. And think about your pelvis just staying neutral. And then allow the muscles to do what they need to in order to keep your bones like that. So from here, keeping your bones like that, start to pull, think about pulling your feet away from the ground until they come in line with your knees. And then take a really full breath in. Take a breath out. Then inhale, lower your knees to a hover on the right. So we're not going to stay in a twist, we're just going to hover. And as you exhale, if you remember, your thoracic diaphragm and pelvic diaphragm are going to move in and up. as you bring your knees back to center. Inhale your knees over to the left, just to a hover. The diaphragms are going to be moving down and away from one another. And as you exhale, the diaphragms of your pelvis and your rib cage are going to be moving in and up, helping to engage the support of your inner core as you return your knees to center. Inhale, knees to the right. Again, think about your pelvic floor drawing in and up, the diaphragm of the inner ribs drawing in and up as you come back to center. And keep going, following your breath. Inhale the knees to hover. Press into your hands as you exhale. Draw your knees back to center. Inhale to hover. Exhale, back to center. Inhale to hover. Exhale to center. Inhale to hover. And it should be one continuous motion. So we're not moving fast, we're moving slow. So it takes the whole exhale to bring the knees all the way back up to center. And as you reach the center, you're at the end of the exhale and the inhale begins and the knees continue to roll down slowly to the hover. So when you reach to the hover, you're at the top of your inhale and the exhale will begin to bring your knees all the way back to center. So it's this slow, fluid movement. And if you think about how jellyfish move, they spread apart and wide, and then they exhale, pull together in the center and go up. But it's a fluid motion. So imagine your body moving with the diaphragms of your own body in this fluid motion. We'll be touching into this a couple times throughout the practice. Good. Once more on both sides. And your exhale will bring you back to center. And you'll extend your legs out straight. Palms will slide a little bit lower, not right beside your hips, but palms face down. You'll feel it in your body where they're supposed to be. They're not in line with your shoulders. They're not beside your hips. They're somewhere in between where the outer shoulders can relax into the ground. So with your legs, have them directly stacked over top of your hips. So if you're quite mobile, don't bring them too close to your forehead yet anyways. And even here, just check, are the bottom of your rib cage drawing down towards the top of your pelvis? Is your pelvis in a neutral spot? Hands face down and press ever so slightly into the ground, which will help to engage your core. Try not to allow your shoulders and your upper chest to take a lot of this. So you'll take a full breath in, and it will just be ever so slight that as you exhale, again, the diaphragm, so your thoracic diaphragm and your pelvic diaphragm, as you exhale, they're going to draw towards center and up. And as you do, you'll use your diaphragm to bring your feet as much overhead as you can. You will go into a posterior tilt in your pelvis, and dependent on the strength of your diaphragm will be how much or how little your legs come over your head. Now, allow yourself to just be curious and subtle with this instead of trying to whip them and use momentum. We're not looking for momentum. We're looking to play again with this jellyfish motion of our diaphragms in our body so that we can start building some nice internal strength. So as you exhale, find from your feet, your pelvic diaphragm moving up, And then feel your thoracic diaphragm moving up as you reach the bottom of your exhale. And then as you inhale, roll and release the diaphragms as they spread out and open. And then on your exhale, same thing. You'll gather from the bottoms of your feet up the inner lines of your legs, pelvic floor. As the bottom of the exhale arrives, you'll move into thoracic diaphragm. Just go as high as you can. And then as you inhale, you'll very slowly begin to release. And just allow yourself to keep exploring that. So again, instead of doing it from I'm pulling my feet with my muscles, I'm doing this with my muscles and momentum, we're not looking for that. We're looking for this very gentle subtlety where you're working with the diaphragms as a continuation. And as jellyfish move, it's a continuous motion. So we're not popping or stopping or anything. It's this slow undulation or this tick tock that we're exploring. And if you've never worked with your pelvic diaphragm, it might be such a small movement that almost feels like nothing's happening. But the more you invite it to turn on and to lift up, to work with you as your breath is working, it will slowly find its way. It will come back online. Good. We'll do two more. Last one. As you exhale, let your knees bend. Bring the bottoms of your feet to the ground. And this time, walk your hands close to your hips with your palms face down. So we'll do a little bridge lift and lowers with this same idea of the diaphragms. So we'll actually lift on the exhale. And as we exhale, imagine the pelvic floor diaphragm drawing up towards the thoracic diaphragm lifting up. Bottom of the exhale, we imagine our bones all hugging in towards our midline. So the rib cage hugs to midline, even the ASIs or the front of your pelvic bones hug to midline. This will help to keep some space in the sacrum. And then as you inhale, the diaphragms are going to be moving down and away from one another. The rib cage can soften, the pelvic halves can soften. And then as you exhale, press down into your feet. Inner lines of legs stay drawing towards center. The pelvic diaphragm lifts. The thoracic diaphragm lifts and draws to center. Rib cage pulls in. ASIs pull in. And as you inhale, the diaphragms move down and away from one another, as do the bones, and we soften the pressing of the feet. Inhale, press into feet, inner lines the legs, pelvic diaphragm lifts, thoracic diaphragm lifts. We peak, and as we exhale, the diaphragms start to move down and away from one another, and we release the pressure pushing into the feet. And continue. Exhale, pressing into feet, inner thighs, pelvic diaphragm, thoracic diaphragm. Exhale, the diaphragm, thoracic, pelvic floor move down and wide, and the feet relax. A few more breaths like this. See if you can find it without my voice. And again, the movements are almost continuous. Just really working with the fluid body. Connecting to the water as if our body was liquid instead of muscular momentum. Last one on your inhale, allow yourself to come down and rest and allow everything to open and expand outward and release. Good. And then extend your left leg, press into your right leg and shift your hips over to the right side of your mat. Spiral crawl your body over to the right side of your mat, and then we'll roll over to the left to come onto our bellies. Good. So from your belly, stack your hands and rest your forehead on your hands. I'm just going to lift my head up a little bit so that you can hear me while I explain. Tuck your toes under and press through your heels as if you were trying to touch the wall that's behind you. And with your forehead on your hands, extend the base of your skull in the opposite direction of your heels so that you're elongating your whole back body. And then the last part is draw your sit bones towards your heels so that you're elongating your low back. So the three pieces are toes are tucked, your heels are reaching behind you, chin is tucked, the base of your skull is reaching forward in the opposite direction of your heels, and then to bring in the middle half, your sit bones are drawing towards the backs of your heels. And you're just continuously, with not 100% effort, maybe 40% effort, extending and lengthening the back of your body while consistently breathing and remembering a peripheral vision. Your thighs are engaged. Notice any asymmetry, maybe one side is strengthening more than the other, and see if you can invite some symmetry into this lengthening of your back body. And then release. Walk your elbows underneath your shoulders. And if this is too high, you can have your hands further forward as well, or walk your elbows out if that feels more soft in your upper chest, but into Sphinx pose. So your toes are now tucked under, and the best you can, spread your toenails and try to press your toenails into the ground, including your fourth toenail and potentially your pinky toenail. So this means the legs will be even. So we're not turning the heels towards one another or flopping the heels outward. Rather, the feet and the legs are quite neutral. Now, from your elbows, start to add a bit of traction. So pull your elbows towards your hips so that you get a little bit of length. Then press your toenails down and feel an even spiral in your legs. So the inner leg and the outer leg are neutral. We're not spiraling the legs too much in or too much out. And then imagine your diaphragms next time you exhale, drawing in towards one another and up to help lengthen through the upper palate of your mouth. And with peripheral vision, witness your whole body in this shape. And through that peripheral vision, you might notice any asymmetries that are happening in this symmetrical posture. And just invite those asymmetries to work themselves out through adjusting the way that your bones are sitting in the posture. Then keep your hips exactly as they are, and walk your elbows over to the right. Your sit bones continue to draw towards your heels, allowing your breath to slide down the left side of your body. Then walk your hands back to center. Take a breath in neutral. And walk your elbows over to the left, keeping your pelvis exactly as it is. We'll come back to center. Take a breath in neutral. And on your exhale, lower down. Stack your hands and rest your cheek in one direction. And turn your cheek the other direction. Then come back to center. And now let your arms come now beside your hips with the palms face down. Elongate the base of your skull to be in the direction of the top of your mat. Draw your sit bones to the backs of your heels and lift your heels away from the ground without spiraling your legs too much in or too much out, keeping the legs quite neutral. And then extend the base of your skull towards the front of your mat and then towards the ceiling, coming into locust. And lift the backs of your hands up. And in this symmetrical posture, notice any asymmetries that may be happening throughout your body by keeping your vision peripheral instead of focal. Think about elongation through the whole spine. Then exhale, lower. Let your hands come underneath your shoulders. Bring your shoulders to your ears and onto your back. Then press down into your hands as you keep your bottom ribs down and shift into child's pose. Take 2 more full breaths here. Good. And then look forward, extend your arms forward. Pull yourself up strong into tabletop, tuck your toes under, and move into downward facing dog by drawing your hips up and back. You can rock side to side, bend and straighten your knees. Just allow yourself to feel into your first downward dog. And if this is enough for you to explore, stay here. Otherwise, step your left foot slightly forward. Send your weight a little bit into your left hand and reach for your left ankle with your right hand, coming into a twist. Let your neck soften and release. Your sit bones keep drawing up and back. Slowly release your right hand from your left ankle. Slide your left ankle back a little bit.
recalibrate and center. And step your right foot a little bit forward. Really feel yourself ground into your right hand and bring your left hand to your outer right ankle. Release your neck. Sit bones keep drawing up and back. Outer right hip extends up and back. Your breath is steady. Your vision peripheral. And release your left hand from your right ankle. Slide your right foot a little bit back into a neutral downward dog. And then lift up your armpits a little bit to look forward with the back of your neck long. Lift to the balls of your feet. Keep the bottom of your ribs in. And slowly step or walk to the top of your mat. Feet hip distance apart or slightly wider. Soft bend into your knees so that you're not hyperextending. And then feel your pelvis stabilize by pressing down into your feet so that your whole spine can feel like it can go a little bit more passive. Your hands, depending on flexibility levels, can be beside your outer feet with the elbows drawn in towards the outer legs, or you can grab a hold of your elbows and hang. But the focus being on strong engaged legs so that your spine can relax and release. Where your kidneys can begin to melt down your back as we shift from the liver meridian to the kidneys or the water element. And with your legs strong and your spine soft, feel into your spinal column and notice if any of the bones need a little bit of liquid love or some space. And you might even find a little turning of right to left or a shifting of right to left just to offer potential space while keeping your legs active. And then release your arms from where they are. Walk your feet about shoulder distance apart and sit your bum down to your heels, coming into a yogic squat. Now, if yogi squat or malasana does not work out well in your body, you have lots of different options. You could lean up against a wall. You can place a rolled up blanket or a block underneath your heels or roll up the edges of your mat to put underneath your heels. You can sit on a couple of blocks. So taking some blocks and putting them underneath your bum. Now, while you're here, notice if you go into just sort of full rest and choose instead to stay a bit active. So you can bounce, but just make sure you're pressing your feet down and lengthening your body up and open. Find the balance of sitting down while lifting up through the torso. And when you exhale, see if there's any movement in your diaphragm. So as you inhale, does it move down and away? And as you exhale, is the diaphragm moving in and up? Good. Then press down into your feet, straighten your legs, and heel toe your feet now a little bit wider. So it might be at the very edges of your mat or even off of your mat. And grab a hold of the outsides of your ankles or shins, depending how far you're folding, and have your elbows wrap the outsides of your legs. Now, if you're feeling really tight in your upper chest and you want to add some arms, You can also interlace your fingers behind you and allow your arms to reach overhead, whichever is going to create the most freedom in your body. If you're feeling stiff in the neck, turn it right to left. Your feet pressing down into the ground. Breath steady and consistent. Think about every inhale moving now into your kidneys and nourishing your kidney yin through the forward fold. And then soft bend into your knees, hands onto your hips, bend into the knees even more and press down into your feet to come up with a long spine. Good. And then heel toe your feet to hip distance apart. Take a really full breath in here. And with your hands still on your hips as you exhale, press your hips down into the ground. Good. Then place your right foot really well, spread your toes out, root through your foot, soft bend into your knee, and step back with your left foot. We'll turn to face the side wall as best we can through the hips. Your front heel will line up with the back arch of your foot. So our legs are in a triangle formation. Then arms reach wide. Turn your right palm to the ceiling. Soft bend into both of your knees so that we're not hyperextending. And very slowly so that you can feel this action of your femur bone pulling into your hip socket and slightly rotating. The sit bones stay long so that our kidneys stay really nice and open and spacious. And we go so slow that our legs are here for us. They're working so that the torso can be quite free. Once you've gone as far as you can, think about your right rib cage sliding forward and your left rib cage rotating backwards. Good. Then once you're there, press into your feet. Let the base of your skull soften back. Let the front of your face and the top of your neck feels really soft. And if that's not your experience in your neck, you can also look down. Just notice if you let your head go, that your legs and your inner core don't go. An option to have your left arm reach up. And same thing, the bottom of your left rib cage stays drawn down. Soft bend into both knees. Press down into your feet and pull yourself up with your left hand all the way up. Good. And then pivot your feet. So the left toes are going to face the back of your mat. Your right heel will spin out a little bit. Left heel lines up with the right arch of your foot. Think about pulling your leg bones up into your pelvis so they feel lots of space through the hips instead of heavy in the knees and the hips. So lots of space. And then go slow, just starting to reach your torso forward. Feel your left thigh bone rotate and plug into your left hip socket. Go nice and slow. Make sure your legs are there for you. Yes. And once you've gotten there, left rib cage slides forward, right rib cage slides back with the bottom of the right rib cage staying down. Left hand can lower, lean into the back of your heart, base of your skull. And keep your right hand as is, or it can reach up to the sky. Trikonasana. The kidneys are full. The inhale is filling your kidneys, nourishing them, offering them prana, support.
The experience of the inner body is of the water element. So we're not stuck holding the posture in muscular effort and momentum, but rather we're in our fluid body of feeling the open and freedom that taking this shape allows the energy body. If you need to invite yourself into a bit of movement to feel the fluidity, you're very much welcome to. And then look down, soft bend into both knees, press down into your feet and pull yourself up almost like a marionette doll with your right hand. All the way. And then release your right arm. Pivot your toes to face the front of your mat and pull yourself into your right foot to step forward. Take a full breath into Tadasana and a full breath out of Tadasana. Right. Root into your left foot. Spread the toes. Feel the balance even on the big toe mound, pinky toe mound, and the front center of your heel. And then start to take the weight in by lifting your right toes up. As you exhale, feel your diaphragms lifting as you lift your right knee. Now you can stay here and interlace fingers around your knee. If you can go further, you can interlace fingers behind your knee. You can go further, you can grab your outer foot and extend your leg partially straight or straight. Now find a place to focus your gaze, but even here, the gaze can be focused and invited to be peripheral as well. Now at a pacing that works for you, you will move from the leg being in center to the leg being open. Keep finding space through your left hip by pressing into your left foot. And keep extending through your right foot as well. Think of water. You are fluid. Fluidly bring your leg back to center. Let your left hand come to the outside of your right foot or knee. Release your right arm. And keep your hips facing forward as you twist your torso to the right. And keep lifting out of your center. So you don't feel heavy, but you feel light. Liquid and light. Bottom of your ribs are drawn in. Right. And very slowly return back to center. Take both hands onto your hips, releasing your leg. Inhale, stay. And exhale, release. Take on the embodiment of liquid. So do you need to move some waves through? Or do you feel liquid enough that you can shift into the other side? So spreading the right toes, placing your right foot, soft bend into the knee to encourage some muscular engagement to support the fluidity that we'll experience on the left. On your exhale, the diaphragms will move up as you bring your left knee into your chest. Interlace your hands in front of your knee or behind your knee. Or if you can grab your outer left foot, go for it. Press down into your right foot to keep space in your right hip socket. Bottom of the ribs are drawn in. Back of your neck long. When you feel ready, very slowly open your left leg to the side. Again, keeping a focal point for your vision, your outer vision to witness, while keeping your inner vision quite wide and peripheral.
Both feet are pressing and lengthening outward to keep space for the fluidity of your inner body to flow. Your breath is steady, keeping the flow of your pranic body. Sit bones are drawing towards your heels, so your kidneys stay open. Slowly, your leg will come back to center. And with your right hand, grab your outer left foot. Keep your hips facing center as you twist to the left. Keep lifting out of your center, bottom of your ribs in, back of your neck long, feet pressing. Sit bones to earth. Liquid. Good. Very slowly bring your hands to your hips as you untwist. Hold your leg and exhale, release. Now take this moment to become fluid, liquid, and release any tensions, any stuck breath. Allow it to become liquid too. Let it move through. Maybe standing still is the most fluid thing for you to do. Good. Okay, then come to the top of your mat. On your inhale, take a full breath in, reach up and lengthen. Press your feet down, ribs in. Exhale, fold forward. Imagine your diaphragms drawing up. As you fold, base of the skull softens. Inhale, press into your feet, hands to shins, long spine, float up. Exhale, hands to the ground. Step back into plank. Option knees down. Keep the bottom of your rib cage anchored. Heels pressing towards the back of your room. Shift your weight forward and bend into your elbows and lower to your belly. Okay. So come up onto your elbows, shoulder distance apart, and untuck your toes. Bend into your right knee. Reach back with your right hand, and you might grab your outer foot, and that might be enough. You might grab your inner foot, that might be enough. Or you might begin to pull your foot towards your outer hip. Now, what we want to watch is what your pelvic half is doing. So if you start to grab your foot and your pelvic half or the front of your hip bones start to move away from the ground, that's probably too far. So you might not even grab your foot, you might just make the direction of that happening. You might grab your foot as long as the pelvic half or the bones stay the same. You might be able to twist and draw your foot down without your sit bone beginning to lift and flare outward. So notice and go slow enough that when you do, that no changes happen in your pelvis. The only change is happening in your knee joint, that you're moving into a deeper and deeper level of flexion. The moment your pelvic half starts to shift, you're not going into the stretch anyways. So you may as well just pause, do a little bit less, and hold. And the upper body is extending. You can even go straight arm if you're a little bit more mobile, but make sure your left leg is active and anchoring for the opening of your right side. And very gently release and switch sides. The right foot comes down. The toes are spread with the toenails pressing down into the ground. Right sit bone's drawing to the back of your right heel. And your left arm will either come and grab the outside of your left foot, the inside of your left foot, and it might pull your foot to the outside of your right hip. If you are going that far, your fingertips can go from facing back to facing side to spinning to face forward. Again, notice that your left pelvic half stays the same. Other option to go deeper is to straighten your right arm. Notice if you feel twisted in your pelvis, and you may need to pull your right side a little bit up. If I can explain that a bit better. Like your right sit bone needs to go to the back of your right heel, and the front of your right sit bone needs to draw up towards your pelvis in order to keep the pelvis neutral. Ardha Bhekasana. Good. And gently release. Stack your palms, rest your forehead, tuck your toes under, and now lengthen the back side of your body again. So base of the skull goes forward, heels press back, quads strong, sit bones to heels. And release. We'll do one more thing here. Think about the energy of your pelvis drawing up into your heart. So bend into both knees and grab a hold of the outsides of your feet. If you can't, you can use a strap to hold on to your feet. And if you can, grab both of your feet, great. Walk your knees towards one another. Lengthen the base of your skull forward. Then press your feet into your hands to create lift. Notice if the back of your neck is just dropping forward, and try to lift up through the base of your skull. Notice in this symmetrical posture, if you're feeling asymmetrical anywhere, and invite an adjustment of how you're holding your bones so that you can feel symmetrical. One more full breath, lift, and lower and release. Stack your hands and rest your cheek in the opposite direction. You can liquefy your body by shaking your hips from right to left. And sending your inhales into your kidneys. And if there's any tension in your kidneys, allowing the right to left of your hips to liquefy any solids. Okay. Bring your head back to neutral. Slide your hands underneath your shoulders. Shoulders come onto your back, bottom of the ribs draw in towards the top of your pelvis. Press into your hands to come up strong. And then walk your knees forward. Send your hips off to one side and sweep your legs around. Scoot your bum to your heels. Walk your hands behind you, fingertips facing your heels, and just very slowly roll your pelvis into a posterior tilt as you lower your spine all the way down. Good. Palms will be beside your hips, face down. Feet will walk as close to your bum as you can get them without causing tension in your knees. Outer shoulders relax into the ground. Back of your neck is long. Press down into your feet, engage your glutes, and lift your hips away from the ground. We'll take 3 breaths here, not doing anything with your hands yet. So inhale together. Exhale together. Inhale together. Exhale together. Inhale together. Exhale together. Inhale, roll your shoulders under, interlace your fingers or stay where you are. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, press into your feet. Exhale. So stay here or inhale. Bring the base of your palm to your PSIS or the outer edges of your pelvic halves. Inhale here. Exhale here. Inhale here. Exhale here. Inhale here. Exhale here. So either stay here or move to the next if your body can. Inhale, hands come over your shoulders, fingertips facing your shoulders, elbows stacked over your wrists. Inhale here. Exhale here. Inhale here. Exhale here. Inhale here. Exhale and either stay here or inhale, lift to the top of your head. Draw your upper arm bones into your shoulder sockets. Inhale. Exhale, press into your feet. Inhale. Exhale. And either stay here or inhale, lift into wheel. Inhale. Exhale. And I invite you to stay for as many breaths as you're able. And when you are ready to come out, you'll tuck your chin to your chest, very slowly lower down, one vertebra at a time, and then not go directly into hugging your knees into your chest, but rather coming into Shavasana. And in Shavasana, right away go into peripheral vision if you're not. See yourself as whole. And invite liquid to come back into the body, or this idea of water element flowing through your body. The energy is flowing, which the liver loves. Use your breath to encourage the energy to flow. Every breath will help to move the chi through any spaces that might be a little bit stuck. Visualize yourself as fully open. Energy moving fluidly. And walk your feet in towards your sit bones. Press into your feet to reset your pelvis. And even if you're having the urge to squeeze your knees, let's not do that quite yet. See if you can stay with sensations, stay with liquidity, and stay with a peripheral vision to see how it's all still changing. So pull your heels into your backs of your knees to come to the tops of your toes. Feel how that engages your core. Then pull your feet off the ground and up into the air. So we'll practice this slow, continuous movement again. As you inhale, your legs will wrap around. Right knee, right arm, come to cross over left knee, left arm, and then wrap as much as you can. You might have toes come behind calf and palms come together. You might go hands back to back and the feet not crossed, totally fine. This will be our exhale where we hug the backs of the hands, the inner thighs together. And then you'll inhale, unwind, the diaphragms move away and apart from one another. And as you exhale, you'll cross left leg and arm over top, either wrapping the best you can. On the exhale, squeeze them in, bottom of the ribs draw down. Inhale, we unwind. We get wide with the diaphragms. And then as the diaphragms draw in, so do the legs, crossing, wrapping. And on the exhale, we press together completely. Diaphragms move up. Inhale, the diaphragms start to move away and apart as we unwind. And as we start to exhale, we slowly pull everything back through center, wrapping ourselves up, and then squeezing to center as the diaphragms lift. Inhale, unwind. And exhale, wrap up and hug, bottom of the ribs down, diaphragms up. Inhale, unwind. And exhale, hug. One more on each side. Inhale. Expand through the diaphragms, expand through the legs and arms. Exhale, wind them back to center. Diaphragms move in and up. And last time, inhale, unwind. And exhale, wrap it up. Diaphragms move in and up. And release the legs and arms up through center, unwinding them. Allow your arms to float down, palms face down, and your knees to bend to a 90-degree. Inhale, let your knees slowly come to a right to hover. And exhale, your knees will come back up to center slowly. Let the whole breath take the knees there. And as you inhale, you'll slowly lower your knees over to the left, to a hover. The whole breath takes you there. As the exhale begins, the legs come back to center. The diaphragms move in and up. And as you inhale, you slowly continue the movement all the way over to the right to a hover. Exhale to center. Inhale to the right. Exhale to center. Once more on each side. Inhale to the right. This slow, continuous movement along with our breath and your diaphragms. And finishing in center. Extend your legs up so that your body creates an L shape. Slide your hands down so that they're halfway between your hips and being in line with your shoulders. We'll do the plow movement again. So inhale here, your diaphragms move down and away from one another. And exhale, your feet pull into the inner lines of your legs to your pelvic floor diaphragm. Pelvic floor diaphragm to thoracic diaphragm lifts on the exhale. And inhale to slowly return the legs and body to L shape. Exhale, slowly legs come towards overhead. Pelvic diaphragm lifts. Thoracic diaphragm lifts. If you have strength, you might go even further. And inhale to very slowly return back to L shape. We'll do 3 more. only doing as much as your body is able to use the diaphragms, not momentum or muscle. Thinking about the liquidity of this slow, continuous movement. We lift up as we exhale, following the blooping of the jellyfish. And we exhale as the jellyfish widens. Jellyfish are always moving through water, so allow your internal experience to be like water instead of with momentum and muscular effort. One more. And back to L. Then bring your knees into your chest. Wrap your arms around and give yourself a squeeze. If it feels good to tuck your knees in, or your head into your knees, rather, go for it. Now, if you suffer from back stuff, feel free to just roll onto your side and press yourself up to seated. If you're feeling quite liquid, you can grab behind your knees, tuck your chin into your knees, and now we will use a bit of wave momentum to rock forward and backwards over our spine a couple times, massaging it out, eventually making your way to seated. Once in seated, extend your legs out in front of you. And then bend into your right knee and bring it anywhere along the inner line of your left leg. When we're talking fluid body, you want to also think, if I bring it too close, am I going to close my joints off so much that maybe the fluidity isn't quite as fluid as it could be? It might get stuck in the joint. So sometimes when we're working with the water element, we keep the joints a little bit more open so that there's really no hinges that kind of block the movement of fluid through the system. So bring your foot up as close or as far away from your pelvis as you'd like. If you're rolling back, sit on top of something so that your pelvis can really be sitting upright. Take a gentle twist so that your sternum or the bone in front of your heart is over your extended leg. And just allow yourself to sway right to left as you fold forward. This swaying can sometimes allow our bones to make space for our tissues to release. And if you want to go into a deeper twist, you can walk your hands to the outside of your foot. Eventually setting into Janu Shirshasana. And the goal of moving into our liquid body is not only to allow ourselves to feel more fluid, because the energy of the body moves the body fluids as well. But once our energy body is in flow, our fluid body becomes in flow, and then we become more juicy. And when we become more juicy, we can then invite this established water element to be able to support our heart's arousal. Or we allow the water element to be able to kind of contain moisture within the body while the fire of the heart is alive and well. The inspiration and the insights are moving through us because we have this fluid base to hold an established fire. And so hopefully these movements have allowed you to wake up the juiciness of the uterus. And if you don't have a uterus, of the reproductive organs themselves, or the prostate glands. On your next inhale, engage a little bit through your feet and press up to seated. And then we'll switch sides. Bringing your left foot up anywhere along the inside line. Of your right leg. Making sure you're at the middle of your sit bones. And take this gentle twist. So we pull our rib cage away from our pelvis, create lots of space for our organs. Take this gentle twist, and then to fold forward, you can allow yourself a little shimmy from right to left. The hands can come on either side of your foot or shin. If you want a little bit more of a twist through the organ body, you can walk your hands to the outside. The breath is steady, and still the peripheral vision is engaged. And on your next inhale, slowly walk yourself up and extend your left leg out straight. Sit up through the pelvis, or again, sit on top of something. And then very slowly begin to hinge forward, coming into a symmetrical forward fold. And just notice here, with your vision in periphery, in this symmetrical pose, where do you feel asymmetrical, if anywhere? And how can you place your bones to invite symmetry? And press into the backs of your legs, elongate your spine, and come on up. The last posture we take will be a wide-legged hero pose. So bring your legs off to one side and come up onto your knees. You'll walk your knees apart and sit your bum down between your heels. Now, if this does not happen in your body, it's completely fine. You can grab a hold of a blanket, and just so you can see from side view, I'm not sitting on my feet. From back view, my feet are a continuation of my shin bones, so they're also not tucked in where the ankle is then bent. You want your ankle to be neutral, top of your foot neutral on both sides. So try not to sickle the feet, but rather have them just a nice elongation through. If it is not comfortable for you to sit this deep in a posture, you can always fold a blanket, sit on the blanket, even if just a little bit, or you can sit on top of a block or bolster, as high up as you need to go to be really comfortable here, because we're going to stay for a little bit in the form of a meditation.
You can also roll a blanket for underneath your ankles if you're really tight in your ankles. And allow yourself just to play with the position, because you should feel like there's some movement and fluidity here. Again, we're working with water element, so you don't want to feel stuck. Like, you very much want to feel like you can move your pelvis in circular directions. If you feel stuck, sit on top of something. You don't want your knees to feel it. You don't want your ankles to feel it. You want your body to be so lovingly available to be fluid. Okay? Now, if you do want, because we're in a more still position, if you feel cold or you're working on a bit of cold inside your body, you can always place a blanket over your womb or legs or thighs, whatever might feel cold. Then once you're here, feel into your right and left sit bone. And notice if you're leaning over to the right or to the left, and just invite as much symmetry in as you can in this moment. And allow your pelvis to sit in a way that it encourages this elongation or this floating upwards of your spine. So again, be aware of too much muscular effort and see if instead you can find effort through your attention to be present. Often when we're present, our body wants to sit really tall so that we can hear and sense a lot more clearly. We don't sense so clearly when we're kind of blocked and slouching. And while you're here, come back to your diaphragms as jellyfish. When you inhale, watch the diaphragms draw down and apart. When you exhale, watch your pelvic diaphragm draw in and up, your thoracic diaphragm draw in and up. And as you inhale, watch them settle back down. Now, if your attention finds it quite invigorating to stay with this jellyfish movement of the pelvic and thoracic diaphragms, stay with that. If you feel available to witness your reproductive organs as liquid or as water or as juicy, bring your awareness into that level of yourself. And notice how having the ribs forward will actually sort of cut off the channel of the uterus or the reproductive organs to the heart. Keep the bottom of your ribs tacked in. Really soft but attentive through the torso. And when we talk about arousal in the body, it is the kidneys bringing energy and the water element up to the fire to create steam. So the heart has to also be awake and in fire in order to not be stifled by the water. So think about the water element of the kidneys rising up to the heart, creating steam. And arousal doesn't have to only be sexual. Arousal is an awakened self, alert, present, ready to create. It's this creative energy moving up so that it can move out. Or it can move up enough to create more stimulation to build. And once there's so much steam and there's so much creation, what then happens is the heart fire floods back down into the kidneys. And that's where orgasm comes from, or where pleasure comes from, is this coming to fruition of the dance of the water and the fire element. And we can go even deeper than that into the Bao Mai channel, which is the uterine heart connection. And this is what creates such deep, divine healing in the body. Like the deep, 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 deep healing. That this connection can only be experienced when we're able to be so subtle. Notice if your diaphragm stops moving with your breath, how the thoracic diaphragm can block the energetic connection from the uterus to the heart. By keeping the heart open, the uterus is healed. And by keeping the uterus online, it remembers to connect to the heart in order for its healing, or its vast expanse, its ability to create, to transmute. And I offer you, you can stay here in this position, or if Shavasana or legs up the wall become more beneficial to you, especially if you're at this video at the end of the day. And I invite you to come into a laying down position, or again, legs up the wall to complete and close this practice. If sitting in a meditation is comfortable for you and you're meeting this practice at the beginning of the day, please feel free to stay. If you're still in meditation, remember the peripheral vision. If you move to Shavasana, let it all go. I invite you to stay here as long as it serves you or until you feel. And it's a very important thing to be able to feel when you feel like the process is complete for you. When you arrive at the point of completion, allow yourself to bow to yourself and to the practice, and to energy flowing through you, to the water element that brings you to your depth, and to this deep divine connection that exists within us through the uterus and the heart, or the reproductive organs in the heart, that is always available for transmutation of anything and all things. The water element below supports the capacity of the heart to be really on fire, passionate, alive in a healthy way, in a grounded, stable way. So feel free to stay. And thank you for being with me. Satnam.